Hi everyone, this is Claudia. Thank you for tuning in to Head in the Clouds. Before we begin this episode, just want to let you know that the topics that we discuss in this episode might be slightly controversial or really more sensitive, but please just keep in mind that we are not educators or experts on this topic, but that does not make us unqualified to discuss it because it's that kind of elitist gatekeeping of subjects like these that really just prohibit society from having a real candid conversation about race and language and whatnot. So, you don't need a PhD to discuss topics that affect, your daily life and your community and your identity. So, the primary reason for us doing this episode is to encourage you to think critically and to have conversations like this, like to empower you to feel like you can have conversations like these. We're always just consistently trying to be better and trying to educate ourselves. We're born with a lot of things that society teaches, and, we're not immune to that at all. So please feel free to reach out to complain or comment or criticize or whatever. Just be respectful. Please feel free to do that. You can reach me on Instagram at the Head in the Clouds Show. That's TheHeadIndhe. Let me do that again. TheHeadIndheclouds. That's not the right spelling. Let me do it again. TheHeadIndheclouds. The Hidden Clouds Show. The S does not repeat. Look for me there. Thank you so much for tuning in. I hope you enjoy your stay. Hi, Nuha.
Hello.
So today I'm joined by one of my good friends, Nuha. She's currently studying over in the States. We haven't seen each other in a while, kind of sad, but we went to college together at some point. Quite some time ago now. But yeah.
It's been a while.
Right, so before I let Nuha introduce herself, kind of want to explain why I invited her on today. So today we're kind of talking about language in Malaysia, because we're a very multicultural country with a lot of different races and ethnicities and people who speak different languages and stuff. So yeah, Nuha, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yes, I'm Nuha, and like what Claudia said, in our multicultural country of birth, I guess like I'm one of like the majority ethnicity, so I'm like a Malay. Claudia is like not necessarily a minority, I would say, but as compared to my
Yeah,
ethnicity,
statistically, yeah.
yes, she's a bit of a minority because she's Chinese. I'm Malay, so we're not the natives, but we are the natives. So there we go.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm currently studying in the US in accounting and sustainability. And yeah, just yeah.
Yeah, so we've mentioned just now, I kind of want to talk about the so-called like politics of language. And by that, I don't mean like political, really like political and stuff. I mean like kind of like the dynamic of language in Malaysia because it's like so complex. And like every time I try to explain to someone who's not Malaysian, I'm like, it's really hard to explain. We all speak different languages, but there's like so much that goes into it because like some people get offended by there's a lot of things that go within, the way language works in this country and what it's like associated with. So that's kind of what we're going to talk about. Yeah, because language is very much related to, status or like your social standing and stuff like that here, which leads me to the question because Noah, you went to a Chinese vernacular school, right? Like for
Yeah.
your 小学.
Yes, I did for 6 years the entire time there.
Why did your parents choose to let you go there?
Well, that is a good question because I still wonder about it because technically it was my choice. I don't understand why my parents let a 6-year-old dictate that, like, okay, yeah, sure, our 6-year-old kid who just finished kindergarten and said she wanted to continue learning Mandarin and go to a Mandarin school, and they were like, yeah, sure, we'll do that. Instead of putting me into a public school, which they had already enrolled me in, like at the very like beginning stages of registration, and they were like, oh, I guess we're pulling our kid out and putting her into like a Chinese elementary slash primary school. So yeah, I don't think I regret it, I think, because it has really definitely shaped me for like who I am right now based on like language and culture and also just values as well, I would say. Like I still have dreams from elementary school, like my like homeroom teacher, I think it was Tiran. Yeah, she would just like talk our ears off, just lecturing us about like life, and we were 12 years old that time, so we were just like be learning math. But this is fine. But yeah, I still have dreams about like my childhood during that time, and yeah, it just has a huge impact on me on like how I think and like how I speak. You've known me for a while now. I do not have a typical Malaysian Malay accent at all.
I know. Yeah, no. Do your parents like ever want you to be more proficient in your Malay? I'm sure you're like you're conversationally fluent and stuff like that. I would say you're giving me a look.
I think mine is as bad as yours, but it's fine.
No, I think it's definitely better than mine. But do your parents like ever say stuff like, "I wish you studied Malay more"? Because mine certainly want me to study Chinese more. So.
I would say not as much as my extended family would, just because we speak in English in my household. But when we go to like family gatherings and stuff like that, my like grandparents or like my mom's aunt's child or something like that will be like, try speaking Malay, and I'm like, and it's not like I can't, but it's really awkward in terms of like if they speak to me in Malay, like just full blown Malay in like in their whatever vernacular, or like accents and slangs and stuff like that. I get it, I understand ish, but like for me to reply, it's just gonna be really awkward in terms of like how I'm gonna structure my sentence, like which word I should use, because if you just ask me to speak in like Malay, I would speak like super formally, like as like this formal as in like how you would read from like a text.
Saya tidak mahu.
Exactly, and no one speaks like that in like real life. So I'm like, yeah, I'm doing good.
Yeah.
It's always just awkward doing like family gatherings. Like I can listen to you guys rant and talk about like all your drama, but like don't ask me to reply. So my family, my parents don't really mind as much, just because like they know that English is a lot more important, just because it's like a universal language as compared to Malay, because Malay, it's really just in Malaysia. Like Indonesia is like not completely different thing. It's similar but also different.
Yeah, it's different.
Yeah, so it's like, why focus on a language that only has like, it's just so limited to like one tiny country. So yeah, that's why they're like, learn Mandarin, learn like other languages, because like it's broader. Not that I'm saying like Malay sucks, but
No, I understand. Yeah, I think that's kind of like how I view it as well, but like definitely there's a kind of hesitancy to like all of that because of course I don't want to say that like my national language isn't all that and like it's not worth learning. Obviously, it's always good to like know a language. You know, I still put Malay in my resume. Like it's not really that relevant anymore when I'm back here in Malaysia, but like when I'm over in the States, it's like nice to say that I know 3 languages.
same.
Yeah, but I don't know because I think that there is a lot of value to having a sort of national language that like people can kind of get behind and like English really is like a great language too, especially for you when you're like studying abroad and stuff. But because for me, I made the move to come back here. And since I started working full time like a month and some ago, 2 months now. I don't know. It's kind of. I feel like before I went to the US, I was also in like a bubble, you know, in like school and with college. You know, like English was still preferred and like people literally teach in English. So like I didn't really get to interact with a lot of people who didn't speak English like at all or Chinese. So like basically Malay people who mostly speak Malay. But I can't be mad at them for not being able to communicate with me because it's the national language and it's technically like my fault, you know? And like sometimes I do feel like really ashamed or embarrassed for like, oh yeah, like it's my fault for not being able to communicate with them. So like I don't know about you, but like have you ever been kind of like shamed for not speaking like any language in particular? Like just like any of them?
I mean, definitely Malay. Because just because I am a pure Malay, if you look down my family tree, my family branches, all of them are Malay. Except for, I guess a few outliers, but for the majority, we're all Malay. So for me to not be fluent in it, or even, want to speak it, is not that great in the eyes of the public and also in the eyes of my extended family, because they're like, why are you kind of rejecting your identity?
Right.
In a way, which I do have my reasons, and we can talk about it later. But yeah, definitely, it's just I do feel ashamed in terms of when they kind of pressure you in terms of it's you should speak Malay and stuff like that. But I was like, do I really want to? Is it really important? Also, just because I have my goals is to work outside of Malaysia and stuff like that. And as you know, I've been working towards that for years now. So for me to focus on improving my Malay, or being Malay of my culture, is not as relevant. It's kind of the same as you being an arts major and people are asking you to focus on math or calculus. It's like, I'm not going to do that for the rest of my life. Why even do all this math?
Yeah, totally.
Same thing, I would say, but definitely going to middle school or secondary school in Malaysia, that was something that even my classmates and my teachers would kind of be like, why can't you speak? And I'm like, well, I just grew up differently than all you people. It's my choice. But it's definitely harder to blend in because they would stare at you, even though you are speaking in Malay, but just not in the conversational, colloquial way of how they speak.
No, I understand. I don't know. Like, I think that's a really interesting perspective. Like, in school and stuff, do you think like people still form cliques based on what language they kind of used primarily?
Yes, actually. I think the people that I hung out with the most back in when I was 13, 14, when I was in public school at that point, they were more English speaking, and literally that's what they call us. You're English speaking kids. And I think you mentioned at the very beginning of this session that language also kind of shows your status. English is actually, at least in a lot of places in Malaysia, English is seen as you either being posh or you're up in the economic class.
Right.
Because it's, to them, it's not necessarily a foreign language because we still use it in Malaysia. It's still used in regulations and stuff like that, but it's not the national language. It's not the first language that you should speak. So for them, they were like, oh, this, I growing up, a lot of kids just saw me as a rich kid just because of the way I spoke. And so for them, they're like, oh yeah, Nuha has a lot of money and stuff like that. So for me to blend into school and people, it was harder because they will always be like, oh, don't mess with Nuha because she's well, if her parents are gonna come at you and stuff. No,
wow.
What? Yeah, sure, leave. That's I don't like people anyway.
Nuha.
so stuff like that, definitely. And I did find a decent group of friends that were English speaking and stuff. And I still do keep in touch with them, although they've definitely blended in more into the Malaysian culture. And so even while I'm reading through the group chats and stuff like that, if I'm talking to them, they definitely have a Malay accent or Malaysian accent, or the way that they speak, their vernacular is more Malaysian based or Malay based, whereas mine is just still pure English, just very unwavering. It's I'm nothing.
Yeah, I think you don't actually use that many Malaysian slangs and stuff when you speak.
I do not.
Yeah,
even
absolutely not.
even over here, people are like, "Did you grow up in Oregon?" And I'm like, "I'm a national student, but Okay.
Yeah, like even when you're speaking with like other Malaysians, I think you don't really use things like lah and things like that, right?
No, I try very hard
Yeah.
to not make them uncomfortable when I try to speak to them because they would be like full blown just using all their slang, all their like
Yeah.
vernaculars and stuff
Yeah.
like that. And I'll just be like speaking like how I am speaking right now. And it's just really awkward for them because they're like, why aren't you
Yeah.
reciprocating?
And they think you're like being pretentious, you know?
Exactly. That was how it was like growing up, like especially in secondary school, like from 1, from 2, like 13, 14-ish, they're like, why is this kid speaking English? And I'm like, because that's what I speak. I'm not trying to
Yeah.
be like over the top, trying to be like above you guys. I'm not trying to be this gigantic bird going like, I am a lot better than all you people. It's just that like that's just how that's my preference. That's what I grew up with. And
That's true. I think sometimes, like, you know, like obviously we, as humans, being part of a society, we like to blow things up. Things like language, like, obviously it is part of society and how, like, a community or a country is kind of shaped around. Like, language is so important in terms of how a country comes off as, or like its societal and cultural aspects and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, it's really just you speaking a language. And I think that the problem is like shaming people for what language they don't speak.
yeah.
Like if everyone was just like nice about it, I think it would be so much more productive anyway. But like now it's like so like, you know, people get mad at you and then it's like, well, that doesn't encourage me to want to speak that. Like
Mm-hmm.
even in college, which we, you know, we were in college together,
Mm-hmm.
people still form like cliques, like the Chinese speaking ones.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and then like versus like, you know, more English ed people and
Mm-hmm.
the Malay speaking students, like from like, you know, the scholars and stuff like that. Like even though of course they were all super friendly, but you know, I think outside of our faculty it was even worse, I think. Because our faculty we were all like we had to go to America anyway. So we were forced to kind of like speak English
We were a
anyway.
smaller faculty, I would say, as compared to
Yeah.
like engineering students or like whatever else that they had over there at school. I don't quite remember. I just like stuck to
Yeah.
our faculty just because like
Mhm.
that's the only relevant thing.
Yeah, but I don't know. I mean, we both know that in Malaysia, like English is glorified, kind of. Maybe we could trace it back to like colonization, to like, you know, like that kind of like Western
Yep.
worshiping kind of thing.
Yep.
There's definitely a lot of history in it, but I think in general, like people all like in a lot of parts of Asia, like people will think that people who speak English super fluently or they use it as their main language, you know, they're considered like more proper or have a better status or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And people still want their kids to study English as their first language like today. Like
Mm-hmm.
I've met like quite a lot of people who are like really proud that their kids speak English, you know, and they only speak English to them even if their own English like sucks. No offense to the people I've met.
Mm-hmm.
Like I don't know, like what do you think of the ideal of like valuing English ed people and like English in general more? What are your thoughts on the idea of English being sort of seen as more superior in Malaysia?
Um, I think it shouldn't be seen as a superior thing, but I do think it should be more integrated in like households, not just because I'm like English is my first language. It is. But anyway, it's more of like it helps you, it makes you think differently, if that makes sense. Like the language
Yeah.
that you grow up with or the language that you primarily speak, it shapes the way you think, shapes the way you do things
Yes.
because I don't know why it does that, but
No, it does. It does. Yeah.
um, but I think because I definitely think a lot differently from people who are Malay speaking like their entire lives, or they like speak a bit of English and stuff like that, just because like they had to do it for school and stuff like that. Just and like identity wise, like our ethnicity, we're the same, religion wise, we're the same, like we all like lived in the same area, but like the language that we grew up speaking are like different. And I don't know, I think English in a way, at least in Malaysia, it makes you a lot more open-minded, I would say, and more like globalized. Because if you only speak in Malay and that's like the only media that you consume, the only type of people that you like meet, your thinking and like your experiences are just definitely going to be local, which is fine. But Malaysia is just such a small country. Like, if you want to live there your entire life, then that's completely fine. But also, it goes back to that, like, narrow-minded mindset. And the same goes with, like, if you speak in just Tamil, or if you speak just in Mandarin, or just in Hokkien or Hakka or something like that. It's like you stick to your little tiny community, and that doesn't help when it comes to, like, if a person just suddenly hops into your life and you're like, well, that's a weird alien. What is that? It doesn't speak my language. It doesn't think the way I do. It doesn't, like, experience the same things I do. And then therefore, I don't know, segregation and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So I would say, if, like, people wanting to integrate English into, like, their daily lives of, like, their kids or, like, their siblings or anything like that, or just themselves, I don't think it's a bad idea, just because it's such a universal language and it helps you with, like, learning more about a lot of other things outside of your own country. I don't know if that answers the question, but
no, I think that answers it really well. I agree. I think, I think one of the main arguments comes from the defensiveness people feel about their own cultures. Like, that's kind of like the point with Chinese schools in the beginning, It's like because these people felt protective or defensive about continuing their own cultures. They don't want to, like, have it disappear because of, like, the majority or because of, like, the government or anything like that. And I think that's probably how, like, most Malay or Malay speakers feel as well. It's like the idea of globalization is important, of course, in today's, like, landscape. And English definitely has a lot more resources. Like, you can learn a lot more because there's a lot more written in English and a lot more provided to you in English. And I'm sure some people will see that as a westernization of the world, and I guess it is. Like, globalization in our universe is pretty much just westernization, and we can't really help it at this point. It's already, like, past. Like the only way I think that you can, at this point, like, that's how I think, is the only way that you can really uplift our own, like, Malay voices, Malaysian community and voices and opinions and all that, is to play the game their way, right? Is to speak English and then introduce it through that. But it doesn't mean that you don't have to be proud of your own upbringing or your own linguistic background. But of course, like, people get super defensive about stuff like this because it does feel like a rejection of, like, identity and, like, history and, like, we were colonized, all of that stuff. But I totally agree with the idea that, like, language just really kind of dissociates us from one another, from each other. Because when I see, like, Facebook posts that my mom sent that are, like, in completely, like, traditional Chinese, I'm like, what the hell? Like, I don't understand the comments. Like, they're mad about something, and I can kind of get it, but, like, I don't know what they're mad about. And so, like, even the whole news cycle in different communities are completely different. And as, like, a journalism student, or I'm not a student anymore, but it's like, wow, that's just dividing the country so much. Like, you're getting literally different news just based on the language you speak, because the entire community is different. Your whole opinion is just different, so it further divides you and stuff like that. So what do you think about assimilation and stuff like that, like in Indonesia, right? Like, most every Indonesian, like, no matter what their ethnicity is, they have basically just have turned towards just learning one national language. So I don't know, like, what are your thoughts on that? Like, should everyone in Malaysia just not speak their languages?
I'm pretty sure there'll be
and
a
just
war about it if that actually happens. Like, lots of people will be, like, stabbing each other, going like, "Oh no, we must speak this one because we want our culture and stuff like that." Because there will be lots of, I wouldn't say bloodshed, but who knows if there'll be bloodshed. People just coming around.
Figurative bloodshed, yeah.
You never know, because, like, riots are still a thing. Maybe people would just bring out, like, their sticks and their whatnot and they're trapping it.
You're right.
I've been watching too much anime. Sorry.
Your sticks.
Yeah. But anyway, I think that would be a probable solution, but no one's gonna like it. And who even listens to a government at this point in time. I don't know. It's kind of sad in my perspective because like you're putting everything all into one. Yeah, I would say it would be good, like in terms of like assimilation, like how Indonesia is doing, but at the same time, there are gonna be consequences as well.
Yeah.
People losing their identity.
Like that's the thing about like categories or labels, I guess. It's kind of like on one hand it's nice sometimes. Like, okay, let's start with like the not good things about like, just like pushing someone into a category. It's like obviously you're kind of just limiting them and, creating stereotypes for them. But on another hand, like I especially like after I went to the US, I realized, like it's always nice to meet other Malaysians or other international students because it gives the sense of belonging and a sense of understanding. And I think that's particularly prominent when you are part of an out group or part of the outsiders and you feel like you don't belong in like general society or something like that. So that could be a reason why like people like just like really want to hold on to like what they speak, be it like dialects or stuff like that as well, because it's just like when you find someone who speaks the same way as you do, you're like, ah, yeah, you get me, like you said, language really does define your worldview because of the vocabulary, because of the culture, the society. So it really just it helps you feel like, oh yeah, you get me. But yeah, in terms of assimilation, I agree, it's like because it's when done wrong, like it's kind of just like an ethnic erasure in some sense. Like it's kind of like stripping down certain things that are important to people because language is so deeply connected to culture and to communities. And I think sometimes, it's easy to see, for example, Chinese people, like me, obviously, to see them as like, okay, yeah, but it's not ethnic erasure because you're part of like a huge group of Chinese people in the world. Like they're still like such a big existing group of people that share your values. But I'm not Chinese, like mainland China people are.
I
Like,
agree.
yeah, I can't go there and feel at home. Like, I can't just move there. Like, I'm from Malaysia. Like, I'm both parts like Chinese and Malaysian, and like they're like different things. It's like my ethnicity and my nationality, and it's like both parts can definitely still be celebrated or like kept, but I don't know. I don't know what kind of solution would allow that. I don't know. Confusing.
I have no idea either. Because like you said, like if assimilation done wrong, then it's gonna have like a whole lot of consequences. And technically, at least like in the past year, and just like throughout history, a lot of things have gone wrong. Every single time, people are like, "Let's do this thing. It's gonna be great and help a lot of people." And like, no,
Yeah.
doesn't happen. So yeah, I honestly do not know what like a good solution would be, just because it's so complex and each side has their own like good points and their bad points, and I don't know if we can ever, even just like in Malaysia, bridge the many gaps and bridges gaps um between like the three ethnicities, and also with people who are mixed ethnicities as well.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, at the end of the day, we're a multicultural
Yeah.
country. That's what we like say all the time. Like that's how we promote ourselves. It's kind of like America, trying to call itself a melting pot. Like so we should just be nice to one another. We all literally belong here. But there is still room for us to have our own unique communities. I don't know. It's always like really easy to be like, oh yeah, we should all just like come together and like Satu Malaysia and like whatever. But
I
like,
never ever believed that, because they will always say that Satu Malaysia, and I was like, yeah, sure. That's
yeah.
I never believed it. 12-year-old me was like, you're all saying things that you don't mean. It doesn't
Yeah. Yeah.
mean government. I don't know.
I don't know. It's very complex in Malaysia because there's always people saying like, okay, but the Chinese people are dominating the economy. So they're like, okay, so you guys are like privileged. You can't play like the minority card, which is like kind of true. But, you know, like systemically speaking, like in government, like the representation in that sense is kind of different, you know, and like at the end of the day, a lot of Bumi Putras, like they still do get certain benefits. But, you know, like we want to, I'm sure a lot of us want to be part of like a meritocracy. I don't know, man. Where there it's just based on like your merits and stuff. But we can't just change like that because politics, I guess.
Yes, it's definitely politics in terms of the whole Bumi Putra thing. And as a Bumi Putra, I feel really bad saying Bumi Putra because I'm like, ugh, those Bumi Putras. But then I'm like, oh yeah, no, disgusting. We get discounts on things, you know, just for being a Bumi Putra. And that is, it's not racism, it's ethnicity-ism. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm gonna stick with
Ethnocentrism, yeah.
yes. There
You
we
can
go.
say that, I guess.
But I think going back to what you said about Chinese being like dominating the economic realm of things, I would say that also goes back to culture and language and that shaping the way you experience things and do things because people are always like, oh, the Chinese are rich, the Malays are lazy, and the Indians are just like there. And we're not even like considering like the Orang Asli, like the actual natives. Yeah, I think it just goes back to that whole topic of your language and your culture pushing you to be where you are in the economic realm and stuff like that. Just because I grew up in like a Chinese school, as we talked about at the very beginning, and it's very different from regular public Malay-centric schools because they really push you to get like 100%. They really push you to be perfect in a way, not just for girls, because I know like there's been lots of topics about how females are more pushed to be perfect, whereas boys are more pushed to be brave. But in growing up in a Chinese school, it was everyone had to be perfect.
Yeah.
Everyone had
Just
to
get good grades.
get
Yeah.
good grades, get that whatever stuff. And like super disciplined, like super punctual and stuff like that. And if you don't do those things, you do get punished, and in a way that's not just shameful, but they literally hurt. They literally just bring like rotan you and like canes, like just hitting you, and you're like 8.
Yeah, you're like, what the hell?
I mean, technically, growing up with that, I was like, yeah, it's just how it is, and like
Same.
talking talking about it to even like Malays, to even like Indians who didn't grow up with that, they're like, what in the world is that? And I'm like, you guys don't have those. You don't have like your teachers, like every single teacher bringing like canes with them to class, and like,
oh my god, I didn't know that. I thought it was a universal thing in Malaysia.
No, it's not.
Really? Hi. Quick interjection from editor Claudia. So we learned later on that most public schools, no matter what kind of vernacular school you were from, practiced caning. So please just know that this is from Nuha's own experience, from what she knows from her friends, which she will continue to explain. So these anecdotes are what she's heard from her friends. Thank you.
But for them, they're like, what is that? And I was like, you don't have canes. And so like literally it's a lot of fear, to be honest. Like growing up in a Chinese primary school, a lot of it is just fear. Like if you, especially since once you're fourth grade onwards, so like 10 years old onwards, they literally just put you into different classes based on your grades. So there's the first class, second class, third class, and then I was in the first class. And they put more pressure on you though, because they're like, you kids are the first class, you're supposed to be like the representatives of the school, and everyone looks up to you, like all the 7-year-old, 8-year-old kids, they look up to you guys. You're just a group, like a class of 39 12-year-olds going like, okay, we have the entire school on our shoulders, I see. So like us not performing well in our like studies, or like even if you're in like our weekly Monday assembly, in the hall, and if we just like misbehave or just didn't hit up to par on what our homeroom teacher expected us to do, like whenever we went back to class right after that, she's like, what was that? What was that? And then it's like 15-30 minutes of her, like, I wouldn't say nagging, because it was not nagging. It was just lecturing us about the entire thing. And then, like, for example, I think I have so many examples. Look at me. Like back when in elementary school, like in primary school, you had to cut your fingernails every week, just because, like, I don't know, cleanliness. And I still do it. Look at them, just shaping.
Wow.
I still cut my fingernails every single week. And so they check every single week to see if like you cut your fingernails or not. If you didn't, then you kind of get either pulled to the back and go like, well, this kid did something wrong this morning. And then our homeroom teacher, sometimes she would ask all of us to stand up, bring her cane, and look at our fingernails. And if they're not like adequately cut, like if they're not like this short, if there's just some bit of like white nail on it, she'd literally like take the cane and just like hit you like that.
Oh my God.
Hurts. It hurts even more than like hitting your own palm, because that's what we're used to. Because this is like there's more flesh here. Look at all this nothingness getting hit with a rattan cane, like with a rattan. So literally that's like how it was like growing up in that place. And it's like I said, I don't regret it, because that's like I've become such a disciplined human being as compared to all my peers, all my classmates. But it just definitely instills ambitiousness, like discipline, and just like fear of failure. And that's how, I guess that's probably, I don't know, a reason why the Chinese are so good in the economy, because like we were brought up differently, whereas Malays, we were always sheltered in a way that like, you get scholarships just for being a Bumi Putra and stuff like that, and like you get to go to like these schools just because, like, I mean, obviously you have to get good grades, get straight A's and stuff like that to go into boarding school. And usually Bumi Putras just have a lot of privilege, so that's why we end up being lazy, or we are what's it called, so dependent on the government. And that's why they have all these like matis who do not want the Bumi Putra privilege to go away, because without it, it's not like they're nothing, but it's going to be a harder life because they don't have a lot to depend on, because they've been depending on their privileges as a Bumi Putra. I mean, I wouldn't say Malays are lazy, because I guess that's like growing up, like my parents always be like, yeah, Malays are lazy, but like being part of society after a while, I've met really hardworking and really smart like Malay people,
like you.
Okay, thank you. But they are not lazy, they're smart, they're hardworking. It's just that they still depend on the government for a lot of their things, just because they, you know.
But that's the thing with privilege, honestly. It's like you can recognize it in everything. Like for me, I recognize that I'm like super privileged, like in terms of, you know, financial stability. And it's like I'm aware that it's not like ideal, and that like a lot of like my success is because of that. But you still don't want it to kind of go away, you know? Like it's still nice to have like my parents basically support me financially for everything. So I kind of understand.
So yeah, that's a very long-winded way of just trying to explain or like unpack how and why that's a thing. It's not because it's a ethnic gene sort of thing, or like in the system telling go like, oh, you're Chinese, sure, you're gonna be rich now. It's the way they were brought up, the way their is like, it's different. And I feel really bad I can't say quite a lot about like the Indians, just because like
I know.
I don't know. It's not like I don't know that many Indians. My best friend is an Indian, but I don't know where they stand, because they get so blurred in the background. The Indians are always just kind of put into the background.
Yeah, no, it's very complex. It's very hard to explain this to like anyone who's like not Malaysian.
Yes, and thus this podcast.
I mean, on a closing note, I guess, I don't know, it's kind of somber, isn't it? Not very optimistic note, but I think, I don't know, will we be able to see like a big change during our lifetimes? Probably not. But
Probably
I
not.
think, yeah, but I think a lot of our generation who are like on social media and like, consuming more stuff and being more open-minded about things, like, we'll kind of discuss these sort of so-called controversial or taboo topics that we don't usually get to hear about on, mainstream media or whatever. I don't even know what mainstream media is here anyway. Like Astro Awani probably, but
I agree. I don't know what that is anymore. It's like, I'll watch BBC News.
yeah. So, maybe more conversations like this will happen with our generation and
I believe so, probably.
we'll go somewhere with it. Yeah.
Mhm.
But yeah, thank you so much, Nuha, for coming and talking about all your interesting experiences and for teaching me quite a few interesting things, like the Rotan.
Did you not
Yeah,
experience that when you were
I
growing up?
did.
Those who just didn't
No,
experience like being caned at 7 years
yeah,
old.
but not to say that we're like advocating for corporal
Of
punishment, just
course
saying
not.
that it builds a little bit of character.
A lot of character. Look at me just still going like, oh, you guys don't have canes for your 7-year-olds? Okay.
I know, right? Like it's crazy to think about it.
Hmm.
But I mean, it was part of our society, so
Yeah, I don't know if they're kind of like abolishing that particular part in current Chinese schools, though. I feel like
yeah,
they are to a certain extent. I don't know. I haven't like gone back to my museum
me neither.
ever.
母校.
Yeah, I haven't.
That's funny.
Yes, I haven't gone back to my museum in like forever. So I don't know how they are like now, and definitely like the teachers are always gonna be in their 20s and 30s and 40s and stuff. And obviously, they would have like gone through generations of like, well, we probably shouldn't do this. Because, I
Hmm.
mean, I would kind of
Yeah.
feel sad if they take it away just because it's what are you doing? You're taking away this part of the child's childhood. But I guess
Yeah.
also like,
Back in my days, back in my days, we lined up at the back of the wall and got hit by our teacher.
literally.
No, but yeah, we hope there is a solution and an alternative to that. Go figure it out, schools. Pay the teachers more or something. But yeah, thank you for coming on here. Hopefully you'll come back again next time.
Yes.
Thanks everyone for listening, and I hope you learned a thing or two about Malaysian culture and like language in Malaysia. Leave us questions, please, if you have questions. I don't know. I would have a lot of questions, but yeah, thank you. Bye. You want to say bye? Take care.